It's a real question. If a parent said, I just don't know about the spanking or a ruler on the bottom or something, I just don't feel comfortable with that. On the one hand, I'd really want to tread carefully and cautiously with the parent who said that. I mean, there may be all sorts of reasons in that parent's background of how they were treated. They may not trust their own judgment, their own way of meting out that sort of corporal punishment. And so as a pastor, I would be very cautious about telling a parent, you absolutely have to spank.
We started spanking at whatever moment we could discern that child knew what they were doing was wrong. Maybe 12, 13-month-old, walking around and about to put his finger in the socket, and you say no, and the child stops, looks at you, and then does it anyways. So I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know any other kind, like, are you gonna have a conversation with the kid?
You know, one of the limitations on spanking is who can do it. Newly adopted parents, foster parents, step parents who are new on the scene, just beginning to develop relationship with a child. It's advisable that they not use spanking. It's your bond and trust with a child that gives credibility to the message behind spanking. And if you're still working on the bond, you just need to stay away from it.
The reason we chose spanking with certain kids is because it worked. And I had like little spoon in my purse, and when we'd go to the stores, I'd just pull out the little spoon and that would work. But I think every parent just has to find out what will work for them. It wasn't a punishment where I hurt them at all. It was a training and teaching moment.
The problem with spanking is when people use it in all instances for every purpose, right? No, it's one tool in your toolbox. Use it sparingly. That actually gives it a little more influence when you do use it. But make sure you're not using it all the time.
I call it the atomic bomb of parenting. You can't be throwing atomic bombs all day, right? So there's a moment where you say, okay, we've tried this, we've tried correcting, we've tried teaching, and the child is just not getting it. There has to be a wake-up call, and it has to be done under control.
To spank when you're in a rage is just not beneficial on many, many levels.
If you're really upset at something your child has done, maybe you need to take a so-called timeout for yourself to get yourself together and then address the situation.
Do it out of patience and peace and not out of anger. Never, ever spank out of anger, because now you're showing a lack of self-control and self-discipline, the very thing probably that you're disciplining your child for.
The use of these things ought not to appear out of a great maelstrom and out of nowhere, and all of a sudden the child is fearful and is cowering and is caught up. There ought to be some measure of, let's just sit here for a minute and let me explain what's going on.
Sit down with your child and explain to them why you're going to spank them, and make sure they understand what they did that warranted the spanking. Oftentimes we discipline our children, but they don't know why they're being disciplined. They might think it's something totally different. And so helping the child understand, no, this is the reason why. And then telling them, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna spank your bottom. That way there's no uncontrolled spanking on behalf of the parent, and the way the child understands, okay, this is what's happening.
And then we would talk about, I'm doing this because I want to train you and teach you. You can't do this any longer. You need to obey or you'll get hurt, whatever it was. And then I would spank them on the bottom or just on the fatty part of the thigh. And it would hurt, but it never left a mark. And then we would pray at the end, and I would hold them, tell them I love them.
And then I make sure there's restoration, that I hold them for a moment, telling them I love you, and then you go make it right with whoever they wronged.
And then just reassure your child of your love, and help them understand, I love you. I'm doing this because I love you. Come here, let me hold you. And really communicating along the way.
And then it was over with, the relationship was restored, and there was no shaming with it, no nagging with it. It was done. And it was effective.